Hey everybody, Smart Silver Stacker here. In today's video, we're going to answer what would be the best type of silver bullion for barter after SHTF. Now, I put this question out as a poll to all of you last week, and I got 290 responses on that poll, and we're going to get into the results of that and what all of you think in just a minute, and also I'll be telling you my thoughts on the different categories of silver bullion as a barter good after an SHTF scenario. But first, I do just want to mention that gold, gold is great. I love gold. Who doesn't like gold? Although I am the Smart Silver Stacker, of course, I do have some gold coins like this 1/4 ounce panda here, and also these 1/10 ounce Australian coins, the Year of the Dragon and the Year of the Kangaroo. But this stuff really is just too compact a form of wealth, I think, for any kind of bartering, whether it be now or in some kind of an SHTF scenario. This stuff, unless you're making a major purchase of some sort, maybe an automobile or a home or something like that, I think after SHTF, this stuff just is not divisible enough, and it's too valuable to be a particularly useful bartering good. And that's really one of the big advantages that silver has over gold, in my opinion, is that it's divisible. Now, for some people, you might think that the compact nature of gold is favorable, and it is if you need to, say, carry a lot of it on you, or you need to hide it, or storage is an issue. But for general purposes, those considerations aside, I think that silver bullion in just about any form is going to be the better barter material of the two precious metals. Let's get into what you guys answered on that poll. The question was, what would be the best type of silver bullion for barter after SHTF? And the categories were 90% constitutional silver, government mint coins, generic rounds and bars, and then also generic fractional silver. And I'm not going to keep you guys in suspense. Here are the results. And thank you very much to everybody who voted in this poll. And real quick, while we're on the subject, if you guys are enjoying this video and you like these videos, go ahead and give this one a big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. It helps with the algorithm. And also, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell notification icon, and that way you will see any polls that I put out in the future in your feed, and you'll be able to participate in those. The number one response was 90% constitutional silver with 58% of the vote, so a big majority there. Next up was government mint coins, like this American Silver Eagle with 23% of the vote. After that came generic rounds and bars with 13% of the vote. And then generic fractional silver with just 5% of the vote, which surprised me a little bit, but I kind of get it, and I'm on the same page as you guys, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes and why generic fractional silver might not be the best choice for bartering after SHTF. And then the category other got 2% of the vote, and I just put that in there sort of as a catch-all because obviously there's types of silver bullion that I didn't mention in those other categories. That got 2% of the vote. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about that, but if you are somebody who voted for other, please let me know why in the comments below, because I personally don't think that trading flatware or jewelry, pots and pans, knives, forks, that sort of thing, would be a particularly convenient way to barter in some kind of an emergency or financial collapse. I know SHTF isn't the reason that everybody stacks. It's certainly not the only reason I stack, probably not even the primary reason, but I think it's always a possibility, and there are definitely some stackers out there who are motivated by the possibility of some kind of a disaster or the end of the world as we know it scenario, and who want to have some sound money after an event like that. So that's kind of what motivated me to put this poll out there. Now, starting off, we'll start with the number one answer, the 90% constitutional silver. And this would be my number one choice for a barter currency after SHTF too. It's not just you guys. I'm on the same page as the majority of you, because this stuff is very recognizable as a currency. It's a US coin, so people kind of know what it is. If even people who aren't familiar with silver stacking and silver bullion, they might recognize these coins. They might have some idea of what these are. Maybe grandpa had a coin collection, or he's got an old box of coins or something under the bed, and they know that they're silver. So anyway, I think that the 90% silver really is a good choice. It's also highly divisible. This is going to be your lowest premium fractional silver, and we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But it just has a lot going for it. It's, I think, the clear choice for bartering after SHTF. And one thing that junk silver, and now in the poll, I actually had this listed as constitutional silver because I know some people get a little upset when I use the term junk silver. And I just want to mention, I don't mean anything disrespectful about these coins. Obviously, I like these coins a lot. I think they're really cool. US 90% constitutional silver. Junk silver is just, it's common parlance. People know what you're talking about when you say junk silver. You walk into any coin shop in the world and you mention junk silver and they're going to know exactly what you mean. So again, I don't really mean anything disrespectful by that term. I definitely don't think these coins are junk in any real way. They're treasure. They're real hard money. So I want to make that clear, but I might refer to these as junk silver. I might let that slip. So don't get triggered by that if you hear that. And the thing that these have going for them, in addition to being divisible and highly recognizable, is that they are 90% silver. So that means that they're going to be a little bit more wear resistant than your common 0.999 or a 4.9's fine silver bullion. So they are going to handle circulation a lot better than, say, something like a silver eagle. Silver eagles are really meant as a bullion investment and they're not meant to be circulated. But these constitutional silver coins, they were minted with circulation in mind, and they're just a little bit tougher than your average coin. And you can tell because, these things were circulating for quite some time in the US. They were the main type of currency for the average person, and they're still around today. Some of them certainly are worn, but they managed to survive, and they wear a lot less than a pure silver coin. And I would have to say that my top pick for constitutional silver coins for bartering after SHTF would definitely be the Mercury dime, and dimes in general, but specifically the Mercury dime. And I'll tell you why. Because dimes are great because they're very divisible. It takes about 14 of them to equal 1 troy ounce of pure silver. So you can make small day-to-day purchases with these. But the Mercury dime in particular, I like more than, say, the Roosevelt dime or the Barber dime, and that's because the Roosevelt dime, while people will recognize it, it's a pattern of a circulating coin. So, you could get it mixed up with clad coinage, you'd have to be doing edge checks, and people might think of them just as regular dimes. But a Mercury dime is a pattern that hasn't circulated in this country for a long time, so nobody has the idea of these circulating sort of in living memory. So they're easily distinguished from currently circulating coinage. And the reason I prefer them over the Barber is just because you're typically going to be able to find these at a lower premium to something like a Barber dime. And if you do find them lumped together, say in just like a generic 90% bag of dimes or something like that, typically the Mercury dimes are going to have less wear than the Barbers. And I think that's just by virtue of not being as old. So top pick, definitely 90% constitutional silver US coins. You could take your pick, halves, quarters, or dimes, but I like dimes just because of the divisibility, and the Mercury dime specifically because it's so recognizable and easy to differentiate. The next item on the list with 23% of the vote was government mint coins. And I think these are probably a pretty good choice. A lot of bullion investors are just going to stack these up. And here I've got the redesigned American Silver Eagle. So pretty cool design on the back of that. Did a video about that the other day. So if you guys are interested in some of the new security features and changes they made to the ASE this year, you can check that video out. But as far as barter goes, I think these will be a good choice. Also, Maple Leafs, other government mint coins probably work. Even the stuff like the, Perth Mint Kangaroo and other legal tender coins from around the world, they're pretty recognizable, but the ASE, the American Silver Eagle, definitely takes the cake, I think, as far as being recognizable. And when you hand this to someone, they're probably going to know what you got. They're currently minted in the U.S. They're legal tender. So if S does hit the fan, I think people would probably be willing to accept these over other forms of silver more readily. One of the downsides to the American Silver Eagles in particular is that at the moment the premiums on them are super high, so they're definitely a little bit pricier to stack than something like junk silver. And I think that's why they're probably a little bit lower down the list. And, you know, like I said, they are pure silver as well, so they're not going to stand up to the wear and tear of circulation as well as something like 90% silver either. And one last thing about 90% silver, I will say that of all the silver you're looking at, this is the only one that's ever circulated as currency for any length of time. So it's kind of tried and true, if you want to call it that. But it has already passed the test because these things circulated for a long, long time, longer than we've been using fiat currency. So these definitely, we know, work as a circulating currency and a means of exchange. Now, next up on the list, we've got generic rounds and bars with 13% of the vote. And I think the drawbacks of these as a means of exchange are fairly obvious. If you walk up to someone with a 10-ounce bar of silver, people aren't used to using bars as a means of exchange. You know, a coin is definitely something that's going to be a lot more familiar to most people. They're probably going to trust the authenticity of something like a coin a lot more readily than a bar. Now, if you're trading with other silver stackers, that might be different. I'm sure that, you know, the average stacker out there is going to recognize bars and kind of know what you have, but your average person won't. And it might take a little time after SHTF begins. You know, if silver becomes some kind of a recognized currency, people might start to accept things like this, but I think you're going to have a harder time. And also the divisibility issue. You know, a 10-ounce bar is a lot harder to make change for than a silver dime. So I kind of understand why these would be lower down the list. Although, maybe for large purchases, you know, if you're buying something expensive, a home, or say a bunch of food, a year's supply of food or something like that, then maybe silver bars could have their place in generic rounds. The generic rounds out of the bars and rounds is probably going to be your better bet because at least they do resemble coins, which people are familiar with. But there's such a variety of patterns and mints for these generic 1-ounce rounds that if you're dealing with a trusted party, that might not be an issue. You know, a neighbor, somebody who you're going to be accountable to. But if there is some kind of an SHTF scenario, who knows what you're going to be doing, if you're going to be mobile, if you're going to be in one spot, who you might be dealing with, what the level of trust is going to be. And generic silver like these OPM rounds, they're just not as recognizable, and you might have a little bit of a harder time brokering a deal with something like this. Next up, we've got generic fractional silver, and something like this 1 gram Valcambi 0.999 silver bar. It's really neat for the collectors out there. It definitely is a cool little piece of silver, but one problem with this is that it's just so small. I mean, this is smaller than a silver dime, and I don't think that with current silver prices we need to get that divisible. But really, under any scenario, I don't think that this would be necessary. And then the other downside to fractional silver like this is, like I said, they are cool pieces, but you're going to be paying a much higher premium for something like this than you would for, say, silver dimes, which are already in a very compact and recognizable form. So something like this 5 gram silver bar, while it is really cool, it suffers from some of the issues that the generic silver has, you know, just in terms of the variety of mints and products and how recognizable they are. But also, when you're shopping for this stuff, you're not going to get as much silver for your money, so that's another downside. And one last thing is these generic fractional silver products, they are 0.999 or better in terms of purity, so they're going to wear just like the other silver products here, aside from the 90%. So this stuff is definitely low on the list. And if you look, this is a 1/2 ounce fractional silver coin. Now this one is Canadian. I just bought a generic one from APMEX, and this is what they sent me. So kind of cool that it's not really generic. It is from a mint, but you know, as far as the comparison here, a 1/2 ounce of silver or a $1/2, when it comes to bartering and trading, I'm going to take the $1/2. And same goes for these other products like this 1/4 ounce 0.999 fine round versus a quarter. I'm just going to take the quarter. And then same goes for this 1/10 ounce round compared to a dime. I think the dime is definitely your better option. Now, one scenario that I could see something like, you know, a 1 gram silver bar being a good choice for barter would be if the value of silver moves up dramatically. And I think that's definitely a possibility, especially in some kind of an SHTF scenario, because by definition, an SHTF scenario is going to be extremely unpredictable, and who knows what's going on. Maybe silver will be worthless, maybe a grain of rice will get you more than a gram of silver, or it could be the other way around. Who knows? Maybe there's a lot of demand for money. It's all situationally dependent. And I think maybe you could make a use case for something like a 1 gram bar of silver if the price of silver and the value of silver went up drastically. It might be nice to have something so small, similar to like a 1 gram of gold bar today. I don't think that gram bars of gold are completely impractical. Like, let's say silver and gold reached parity or something like that. I mean, obviously an unlikely scenario, but not out of the realm of possibilities. Then you might see a little bit more use for small fractional silver like this. For anybody who answered other on the poll, I personally don't want to be trying to make change for a silver spoon, especially in some kind of a stressful SHTF scenario. But if you did answer other, I would love to know what your thoughts are and what the other bullion is that you would like to trade with in an SHTF scenario. Now, I did get one funny comment from Silver Surfer, and he had some other suggestions for stacking for SHTF. He recommends food, bullets, gas, oil, and girls, and he says screw a bunch of gold and silver. So thanks, Silver Surfer, for your comment. Appreciate everybody who participated in that poll. If you want to see more polls, let me know in the comments below. If you think that's a fun thing that we can do on this channel and with these videos, I'd love to hear some suggestions for polls. So let me know if you have any good ones in the comments. And if you want to see more polls, make sure you subscribe to the channel so those show up in your feed. And I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's watching. I really appreciate all the support, all the comments, all the likes and subscribes from all of you guys. And if you have some thoughts on trading with silver bullion after an SHTF scenario, let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I already know that you need food and beans and bullets and band-aids and all that stuff before silver when you're prepping for SHTF. I am aware of that. I do think that that stuff is probably more important than precious metals. But, you know, if there is some kind of an SHTF scenario, especially a long-term one, we are going to need some kind of money because even in the worst scenarios that humans have ever lived through and experienced, trade is something that's going to go on because it's very, very difficult as an individual to become completely self-sufficient. And if you need to trade with other people to get the things you need a medium of exchange. And one of the things that humans have always defaulted to when it comes to trading, if the establishment money or the current money falls apart, is gold and silver. That has been a role time and time again that precious metals have played for humans. So I don't think it's completely outlandish to think that you might be bartering with some silver after SHTF. So again, let me know what you guys think. If you liked this video and you'd like to see more videos about gold, silver, SHTF, investing, all that good stuff, there will be some videos popping up on your screen now, so go ahead and check those out. And thanks again, everybody, for watching. Keep on stacking. I will catch you next time. Smart Silver Stacker, out.